Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new week of astrology to get into. We are starting a new month. This month of September, I think it's going to go by really fast, and I think there's going to be a lot of like crazy back-to-back changes that happen. We have a whole bunch going on this month. We've got a very busy, energetic start to our week and our month as well. We start the week with Saturn changing signs. We have Saturn retrograding back into the sign of Pisces. We got to talk about that. We also have a grand trine in fire signs going on yet again on Monday. The moon in Sagittarius is going to be trining Chiron in Aries and Mercury in Leo. I have a feeling that some people are going to be expressing their feelings about things, perhaps things that they have been wounded by and maybe that they have overcome. I think there could be a lot of like personal story times going on out there to get our week started. Also, we have a Jupiter North Node trine that comes exact this week and is going to be present for a few days as we build into a full moon lunar eclipse that we're going to be having at the end of the week as well. We also have Mercury changing signs on Tuesday. We have a Jupiter Mars square in cardinal signs going on, and a whole bunch of energetic commotion out there that we need to talk about, you guys. So let's just do it. Let's get into the report. Take a look at what we have going on generally in the month of September, but of course specifically what we've got going on this week, and even more specifically what we've got going on to open our week on Monday and Tuesday. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, September 1st, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this report, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field from more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We will do that at the end. Lots of astrology to get into. In this video, I am going to give you guys like a little bit of an overview of this upcoming month of September briefly to start, and then we will start talking more specifically about this week and how we are beginning the week and just like all that we've got going on energetically out there. Okay, so September though, as a whole, as I mentioned in my intro, I feel like it's just gonna be a busy place to be. We've got things happening quickly, coming out of nowhere, unexpected changes, especially I think in terms of maybe like schedules or routines or our habits that have been in place for long periods of time suddenly being like disheveled for some reason. Endings, release, and letting go could also be very significant themes here. Realize we are in an eclipse window. This is our eclipse season. We have 2 of them a year. It's when the new moons and the full moons are conjunct the nodes of the moon. Right now we have the nodes of the moon transiting through Pisces and Virgo. North node, destiny point in the sign of Pisces from the Western tropical perspective. South node associated with karmic endings and karmic release in the sign of Virgo. We're in our Virgo season, right? And our full moon and this next upcoming new moon going to be within proximity of those nodes, and therefore we are in our autumn, if you're in this part of the world, eclipse season. We have another one in the oppositional time of year. When we get to Pisces season, that will be our next eclipse seasons. But of course, eclipses are very, very karmic in nature. They mark 6-month periods of time. They often introduce changes that play out over those 6-month periods of time, ending and beginning type of energy, and they can bring quite profound experiences. In the sign of Pisces right now, this to me is a process of spiritual growth, but Pisces is also the sign of release, surrender, letting go, disconnecting, detaching. The South Node, the point of karmic endings in the sign of Virgo. This is about the day-to-day, the habits, the routines, the systems, the input, the way we do things in order to get a certain outcome on a regular basis. This is about the nature of the patterns that essentially define our experience. To me, with a North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo being the really defining energetic characteristics of the entire month, because this is our eclipse season and we are dealing with the Virgo Pisces axis. This is some type of spiritual growth through letting go, releasing, or changing some type of ingrained patterning that perhaps we have like systematized our life by, the rules that we followed for an extended period of time. This is disrupting patterns, and through that somehow some sense of growth or transcendence, alignment with a higher version of ourselves perhaps, or just coming to a point where we can release or surrender something that has been preventing us from growing for one reason or another. We're talking about the North Node energy. This is like the force that pulls us forward. This is known as the destiny point, and it rules our collective phase of evolution and growth at this point in time. We cannot get there without whatever, especially in the sign of Pisces, sacrifice is required through that South Node energy, the point of karmic release in the sign of Virgo, what we're putting in to get a certain harvest or to get a certain outcome. This could also bring up themes having to do with like illness, health, and healing. A lot of people may be during this period of time figuring out how to finally heal or resolve like lingering health issues or stuff like that. Or there could be issues such as that presenting specifically for the purpose of teaching us how to heal various issues. But something to do with transcending essentially some previous version of ourselves in a way that expands us to be able to open to receive something more. Now, aside from that particular energetic of dynamic of things, which is present throughout the course of this month, we also have 6 planets changing signs. We're going to be talking about that as we move throughout the course of the month. We have a very rare double new moon in the sign of Virgo that is happening this month as well. If you guys remember, back in August, we actually already had a new moon in Virgo that happened at the very, very beginning of the sign of Virgo. I think it was at like literally like 0 degrees. So that was our introduction to our Virgo season, but we have a second new moon in Virgo that's going to be coming up later this month, and that will actually be the new moon in Virgo solar eclipse. Okay, so we have a double new moon taking place this month, 2 eclipses, 6 planets changing signs. We also have Uranus stationing direct this month. We are also starting out the month with Mercury squaring Uranus, and both Uranus and Mercury will be in signs ruled by Mercury for that square. So that could be a little bit weird. There could be some definite like changes to plans that are coming through this first week of September. We also have a Jupiter North Node trine. We also have a Mars Jupiter square going on. So lots happening, and to me that is indicating that there's probably just going to be a lot happening throughout the course of the entire month. Also, Mercury, as I mentioned in my intro, I'll talk about this more through the report. I think I just mentioned this also, is one of the 6 planets that does change signs this month. Actually, Mercury changes signs twice this month. Mercury is like flying through the sign of Virgo. Mercury is only in Virgo for just over 2 literal weeks, which is so fast. And Mercury, of course, also rules the sign of Virgo, and Mercury like flying through his sign of rulership like that, to me, in the midst of all this other energy, is like things are just going to be proceeding quickly. That's the messenger planet. That's the streamline like flow of information, of ideas, even of like traffic and stuff. I think that there's going to be like very little restriction or blockage to the speed at which things are able to, for some reason, proceed throughout the course of this month. That doesn't mean that things are not going to be like super crazy and unexpected and perhaps a little bit anxiety provoking or ungrounded, but it just seems like things are probably going to be happening quickly. A lot of commotion, one thing after another, and again, a very change oriented period of time. There could be like a lot of decisions that need to go on, maybe like unexpectedly, as we move through this next couple of weeks as well. But things are likely to be happening at lightning speed. Okay, so I think it could be a month of like stunningly fast-paced change, and there could be, because of like this whole eclipse dynamic, a level of impactfulness and like almost a permanency that comes from the things that begin throughout the course of this next couple of weeks. So that, in just like a very small nutshell, is how I'm perceiving September sort of as a whole. Now, as we start the week and the month off, we also have several things happening at once. That could be a good way maybe to describe the way that Monday feels. We could feel like there's just a lot going on at the same time on Monday. We do, as I think I said this in my intro, or I think I've already said it once in the report, one or the other, we have the first of those 6 planets that changes signs on Monday. The second of the 6 planets changes signs on Tuesday. But Saturn, you guys, retrogrades back into the sign of Pisces on Monday, where he was actually the like 2nd to 3rd week of May this past 2025. If you guys remember, we recently like ended a 30-year cycle of Saturn's transit around the entire zodiac. May 24th, 2025, Saturn left Pisces, entered the sign of Aries, beginning what will be a new 30-year cycle through the entire zodiac. But if you guys remember, it didn't get off to a very good start, because the first thing he did was like enter those first few degrees, come into a conjunction with Neptune that really broke down Saturn's ability to take authority, essentially, of this new cycle that he's just beginning. And then he went retrograde, and now he's like going back in the direction that he came through the very beginning of Aries, and now the end of the sign of Pisces again, and he is right back where he was this past, like I said, the 2nd to the 3rd week-ish of the sign of, or of the month of May, the last degree, 29 degrees of the entire zodiac, which to me, again, is another indication. I was saying this back then. Saturn, especially retrograde at the last degree of the zodiac, like this is heavy on the endings. Last degree, okay, this is wrapping things up. This is letting go, moving on, being at the very, very tail end of something. Saturn is duty and responsibility and authority. I feel like, and it's also the Lord of Karma and the Lord of Time, I feel like there is a pretty heavy burden or a responsibility or a duty or an obligation to like let some things go. Like there is a karmic requirement to move on from something, to release something. This could be something from the past, with Saturn also being the Lord of Time and all of this eclipse stuff that we've got going on right now as well. And that's another thing that I find to be interesting about the way that this whole dynamic is working out, with Saturn retrograding back into the sign of Pisces while we are in Virgo season, about to have our eclipses going on that are on the Virgo Pisces axis, because of course Virgo and Pisces are 2 ends of a polarity. So we've got Saturn retrograding back into the sign of Pisces. We've got the North Node right now in the sign of Pisces. There is some fated ending or fated release or something karmic that is required to be let go in order to grow, essentially. I've been talking about the North Node in the sign of Pisces, the spiritual growth that represents. Saturn, that's also like spiritual tests. The test or the challenge is to finally move on from something, probably from the past, probably that has defined our lives for a long period of time, been the source or the what has set in place maybe our patterns or our habits or our routines or the way that we think about things. The South Node in the sign of Virgo, like that's what needs to be released. The Sun coming into the conjunction with the South Node in the sign of Virgo, also about karmic endings, also about karmic release. So it's just all over the blueprint. And then we also, as I have said, have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer right now, trining the North Node, sextiling the South Node. Once again, the nodes being hit by a big, powerful outer planet. This is about expansion. So that's just another like energetic indication or functionality right now that is assisting our ability to gain wisdom from experience that allows us to release, to grow, to let go, and to change the input, essentially South Node in Virgo, so that we can get some type of different output. So these are the dominant themes. I'll probably be talking about them again and again and again over the course of the next couple weeks. But I really feel like something about that is an important lesson that we need to learn now. Now, Saturn is going to be retrograding through the sign of Pisces until February 13th of 2026, when he will re-enter the sign of Aries, where he will be until April of 2028. And also, you guys, if you've been following my channel for a period of time, I've been saying that there has been a super... I mean, I don't know, if you've personally been experiencing it, but in the energy field, there has been a breakdown in authority, in discipline, in control, in the structures and the frameworks, and again, like the rules to the game over the course of this past couple of months. And I've been saying that this energy is going to persist through May of 2026. Once we get to May of 2026, you guys, and then moving forward through that rest of that Saturn transit, April of 2028, I'm telling you, you're going to get back on top of your horse, okay? Like, you're going to get your head back in the game. Like, this is when there's just going to be this kind of like collective, I don't know what we would call it, like the plug gets plugged back in, and a lot of people that have been going through some pretty significant like personal breakdowns and really finding themselves maybe at a point of like personal disorientation with their reality, and like unable for one reason or another to just like stay on track or stay on task or be productive or like follow through on their schedules and their routines and like have self-discipline and like be at a place of like inner authority and stuff like that. That has been a struggle with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in the sign of Aries. As Saturn entered Aries with Neptune there, and then this retrograding back into Pisces. This really is all about the breakdown. It's about dismantling. It's about deconstructing and then restructuring. And when we get through the point in time where Saturn has re-entered the sign of Aries, like I said, that's happening in February, and then moves beyond the conjunction with Neptune in the beginning of the sign of Aries as well, I really feel like we're going to have like kind of like a whole new self-concept and be in a much better place to like take ownership and like really be the boss of like what we are initiating and creating our lives going forward. I think that a lot of people are going to go through a very like personally authoritative and like I am manifesting this, like a very powerful will to manifest and to like be disciplined and self-controlled and responsible in ways that might surprise us in the future. But I do think that's where we're heading, okay? And that should come as we get through all of this like Neptunian, Piscean interference with the solidity of that Saturnian energy. And, that being said, while we therefore have Saturn transiting back into Pisces through these last few degrees of the sign of Pisces again, preparing to not be in Pisces energy again for another 30 years, especially also during this Pisces Virgo eclipse window, something about the duty, the obligation, the responsibility to release things, to let them go. Things really could be kind of like systemically falling apart here. And our mindset and our faith, and that combination somehow, I think, is going to be what we come out on the other side of this period of time with like a whole new version of. We're going to be finding new ways of thinking, doing, and being generally as a result of whatever this period of time brings us. Or maybe we figure out these new ways of doing, being, and thinking, and like we make the changes that are indicated. We are the ones implementing the big changes. Either way, those are kind of like the sides of the spectrum that I feel like are going to be consequential here, okay? So it is about surrendering burdens. Saturn's the burden, Pisces is the surrender to a higher power, giving what is too heavy to continue to carry to the divine, with the faith that a higher power is working through us and providing protection and guidance as we go through this period of time. Strengthening our faith, or consciously working to strengthen your faith. Perhaps, again, like when it does seem like everything is a bit of a test to the faith, is a karmically productive way to use this energy, I think that we can say. And again, shifting the perspective or the mental frame or the thought patterns, South Node in Virgo, this could be the requirement here. And we're going to be talking much more about these concepts, of course, as we move through this window period of time and navigate the varying aspects that present. But spiritual growth through trust and surrender, I think that is another thing that we can like throw in our nutshell here. Okay, so honestly, I don't think that this is going to probably be on like, you know, a grand scale, the most easy energy. Of course, everybody's chart is impacted different and people are going to have very varying experiences depending on how their personal energy body is interacting with the collective energy. But overall, I think that a lot of people could be like experiencing this period of time as a bit of a challenge. It's very unstructured. Again, it's very undefined, out of control, undisciplined, illogical, irrational, unbelievable, maybe like even struggling to be honest, like a lot of dishonesty and stuff going on. While we're in Virgo season that wants the facts and the data and the truth and is rational and is logical. The South Node there, that could definitely be another struggle of this period of time. And it could be a bit of a crazy making energy, to be honest. Mental health struggles and challenges. I think that would for sure be a red flag of the way that this energy is coming together. The South Node in the sign of Virgo and the planets, personal planets, moving through the sign of Virgo for our Virgo season. Virgo is the rational mind, the intellect, the streamlined flow of like practical knowledge and information. With the South Node there, it's just like there's no grounding, there's no footing, there's nothing to grasp at. Like, nothing is true, nothing is real, and having to accept that for some reason and just like have faith that this is all purposeful, that it's gonna work out, that it's leading us somewhere, and that there is some type of like method to all this madness that is going on. Abandonment, neglect, again, like things falling apart. This could be mentally unhinged, like people coming unglued. And eclipse season, you guys, Saturn going on. We also have a Chiron emphasis to get the week started. Very, very karmic time generally, with both Saturn re-entering Pisces, the sign where the north node of the moon is located right now, the Lord of Karma and the destiny point, and of course then the sun moving through the sign that is hosting our point of karmic release. There could be some chickens coming home to roost, so to say, especially in terms maybe of authority figures, people or situations or positions of like power and control, things to do with reputation, government, maybe losing control, losing face, showing weakness, showing vulnerabilities. This could definitely represent authority figures of one kind or another stepping down, being released, being replaced, being dismissed, or just letting go, passing on the baton, so to say. And people specifically maybe who have been in positions of authority or leadership roles for long periods of time, finally experiencing some type of transition in terms of control or authority or power. And maybe perhaps also in this breakdown of authority energy, some type of void in leadership, law and order, or structure somehow that is like existing as a result. The rules are definitely changing and they are quite unclear, I think, while we move through this energetic window. And that is something that does seem pretty clear. So, aside from Saturn re-entering the sign of Pisces to start our week, we also have the moon in Sagittarius forming a trine to both Chiron and Aries retrograding, and Mercury in the sign of Leo on Monday. Chiron energy, again, as I mentioned earlier, that is another very karmic influence, all about essentially the karmic cycles that we find ourselves trapped in and how we ultimately come to a point of overcoming previous states of victimhood through wisdom gained through experience, which bridges us into a state or place or experience of self-mastery that releases us from those karmic traps associated with the initial victimhood or trauma or wounding that we experienced to begin with. It is the wounded healer, teacher, master archetype. And when we've got a strong Chiron energy going on, oftentimes that brings up the archetypal hero's journey, which is the encapsulation of all of those themes. Grand trine and fire with the moon in Sag, Mercury in Leo, Chiron retrograding in Aries, people passionately and dramatically verbalizing their emotions, their beliefs, especially maybe about some of the wounding that they have experienced in the past and maybe how they have overcome some situation. Personal stories, personal hero's journey being prominent focus on Monday, communicating feelings with passion, maybe even pride or enthusiasm. The Chiron element there, especially in the sign of Aries, that's the sign of the self, telling my story of my past wounds, my traumas, my victimhood, my pains, but also the healing, the overcoming, and what the overall experience has taught and the wisdom that has been gained and what will no longer go on as a result of the experience of the process of healing and of the wisdom gained through that experience. We're talking about Mercury. This is the mind. This is the focus. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're thinking about. We're talking about the moon. That's our emotions. That's our feelings. When we have a Mercury moon trine together, people are going to be talking about their feelings. But when we add Chiron, it's not just our feelings. It's like how these past wounds have affected me, who I am now because of it, what I've learned and what I'm no longer doing. So again, like people could be telling their whole life story to you out there, and there could actually be something that is healing in that process or through that process for you, for them. With the trine at play in fire like this, it could actually, like the nature of conversation in this regard could be helping us to properly integrate actually thoughts and feelings regarding some of this like wisdom derived from experience, like finally coming to a point of being able to process it or just like integrate it in a way where it becomes meaningful and again maybe something that we can move on from or use to our advantage or to better us in the future instead of like as maybe like a crutch or something that has been a hindrance to us somehow in the past. There is this cosmic facilitation that is trying to help us release, heal, and overcome in this energy, but also again like throughout the course of this month generally. Or on a less conscious level, it could just be people putting on some performances, maybe even like borderline entertainment spectacles or showcases of some emotional trial or tribulation or personal narrative or experience that they went through that they need to express for some reason. So there's that aspect. Aside from that, I've been talking about this aspect that I'm going to talk about now for the past couple videos. Jupiter moves into exact trine and sextile to the nodes on Monday as well. Jupiter hits 19 degrees of Cancer. Right now, the North Node is 19 Pisces. The South Node is 19 Virgo. So another energetic dynamic right now that is elevating and amplifying the impact of this year's eclipse season or this particular eclipse window on that Virgo Pisces axis. Jupiter, as I said, I think I already mentioned this earlier in the report, but that Jupiter trine to the North Node, sextile to the South Node, that is like cosmic assistance with what this eclipse cycle, these eclipses are bringing into our lives this year. And as we have this eclipse come in, because this first lunar eclipse that's happening along the full moon in Pisces, that is coming in on the 7th, which is this Sunday. So actually my Friday video, I will be talking about that. And I haven't looked at that chart yet, but Jupiter takes about 5 days to transit a degree typically. So Jupiter is going to be in a real tight trine and sextile still with the nodes of the moon when we have that full moon come in. Jupiter expands things. This is the planet that supersizes energy. It amplifies and makes bigger everything that it touches. And a trine, that's a free flow facilitation of energy. Even the sextile, like that is an assisting aspect. So, and Jupiter's also brings blessings, brings growth. I think that, again, like this is just an aspect in play that is going to be exacerbating, I think, whatever goes on in the context of these incoming eclipses. Jupiter is also ruling the position of the moon in Sagittarius on Monday when we have that grand trine and fire signs going on. And Jupiter, as I said, does come into the exact alignment on Monday, trine to the north node, sextile to the south node as well. So this is emphasizing wisdom and the growth that can come through integration of this experience when we're talking about Jupiter ruling the position of the moon in the context of that grand fire trine that is going on there. Jupiter is trining the north node, amplifying both spiritual energy, the creativity also that can be associated with divine inspiration, but also escapism, okay? And that is another thing that we're gonna need to be aware of as we do move throughout this Virgo cycle, as we do move throughout this eclipse window. On one hand, this Jupiterian trine sextile to the nodes of the moon while we've got this eclipse season going on is bringing a blessed opportunity to really do, you know, what the higher octave nature of this energy seeks to do, which is, and which I've already talked about, transcend our previous limitations and our mindsets through gaining some higher wisdom or some spiritual understanding somehow. It is like trying to facilitate a process of spiritual growth. However, the Piscean energy can also be like very detached, very avoidant. It can really oftentimes highlight escapism tendencies, and, you know, drug and alcohol abuse can be issues, overdoses, avoidance of duties or responsibilities, feeling very lost, just wanting to give up, wanting to surrender, wanting to quit, an inability to feel like we can persevere or go on. Lots of confusion, lots of disorientation, maybe depression or an unwillingness to participate, the kind of like pull or drive or desire maybe to just sort of give up on everything, you know, take an exit from the reality. I think a lot of people may be struggling to find their purpose, like define themselves and their lives, just feeling very lost, very confused, very out of control, very almost like maybe even like meaningless or unable to see like the purpose behind a lot of things that are going on right now. And that could obviously be, and then when we also bring up the heightened potential for like mental like illness and just like anxiety and stress and nervous tension to be going on, a lot of people again could be like coming unglued, like acting quite unhinged in this energy, just feel very lost, very out of control. Now again, there'll be another side of this spectrum where people are going to be like dealing with that same type of vibe, but responding to it through reconfiguring their orientation in their own lives, changing their rules, changing their reality, shifting their perspective, shifting their mindset, restabilizing or just restructuring a lot. Like again, like when we're talking about Virgo, this is the input that equals the output, like the way they're doing life generally. And that kind of leads us full circle back to where I was in the beginning and started this report, when I was like, this month of September is probably going to be a lot of like back-to-back changes having specifically to do with how we are doing things. So I think a lot of people could be feeling like everything's sort of coming apart on one hand. Some people will respond to it by just like wanting to give up, wanting to escape, not wanting to play, not wanting to participate. Another group of people are just gonna totally like change, restructure, redefine their lives, the way that they do things, their habits, their routines, their schedules, their lifestyle generally. And hopefully we can all do that in a way that is actually an upgrade, because that can be the outcome. We can go through this period of time and release what we need to release and surrender what we need to surrender and give up what we need to give up and change what we need to change. But if we do that, we are likely to discover that we are actually in a much stronger position, much more mature, much more wise, right? Much more like solidified internally, okay? Once we get through this period of time and come back out on the other side of this in the spring, and we are ready to rebuild our personal reality. That is where this is leading to. So, you know, it really all depends, and a lot of it is going to be very out of our control, right? This is eclipse season, and an eclipse season with Saturn retrograding in Pisces, involved in the eclipse with the North Node, where we are literally being asked to like let go of the reins, like surrender control, and like literally trust the process, act our faith, okay? It's not that we are like, we're not, you know, being encouraged to quit or to give up, but we are being encouraged to like really examine the way that we've been doing things, the results and the output that we've been given, and change what is too ingrained in ways that is not as efficient or as productive as it could be, and to also like think outside of the box, like unique and innovative solutions to overcome challenges, not fixing new problems with old remedies. That's also a huge vibe that this period of time is, I think, bringing to us, and that can be exemplified by the fact that we currently have Uranus at the first degree of Virgo, or of Gemini, I mean. So every planet that moves into Virgo immediately comes into a square with Uranus. Uranus is the great disruptor. Uranus brings awakenings and sudden change. Virgo, of course, is where the change is required. So every planet that is hitting the sign of Virgo right now is being forced to like come up with some type of outside the box solution to like overcome some problem or some challenge or some like whatever that square energy is bringing to us, to gain a better understanding, to shift our thought pattern. And with Uranus being in the sign of Gemini again, and you know, this being the sign of Virgo, both ruled by Mercury, it is our mindset. It is how we are thinking about things. It is our thought patterns that ultimately require some type of upgrade or shift in order to like hit that trajectory of growth that universe is like basically pushing us towards with no way out at this point in time. The only way out is through like letting go and surrendering to the changes and trusting that where we're going is better than where we've been. And it is, and that's what this is saying. But like, it's all very unpredictable. Like, it's all very uncertain. Like, there's no security. There's no stability. It's like a melee and like a free for all, and like everything is just sort of blurry and disoriented out there. It's not going to be, but it's like everything is a little bit loose and a little bit vague. And that is like what's giving us the room to kind of like explore and experiment and like reshuffle in the way that we need to, and that maybe we wouldn't have otherwise if we weren't like put in this position. And the way that things go back together is going to be for the best somehow. So look for and believe, you guys, I do think in the magic right now. You will see it if you look for it, even if it's just in small ways. But we need to find that, and I think we need to hold on to it, and I think we need to, in many ways, like, let it be our compass right now, and like whatever way is spiritually meaningful to you, because things, again, like, could appear to be like just getting a bit off course maybe, or just be a bit challenging while we move through all this crazy energy that's coming up here. Faith is everything. It's what we need to focus on, and that is going to be the remedy to a lot of the mental struggles and challenges also that we might be going through over this period of time. Now, the last thing of note on Monday, and that is a feature of our upcoming week and the energy generally right now, is a square, a cardinal square that is currently building between Mars in the sign of Libra, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. This should energize things despite the heavy like Piscean energy that's going on right now with Saturn entering Pisces and the North Node in Pisces and this eclipse energy that's coming up, which again, like, it could be draining energy levels. You know, as I was saying earlier, like, be kind of careful not to overly tax your physical body. This energy can make us more vulnerable sometimes to just catching a cold or illness. The immune system can be a bit suppressed. So there's that aspect of things. However, this Mars-Jupiter square, I do think, should be energizing things to an extent. That's what a square between Mars and Jupiter has a tendency to do. It is sort of like a burst of energy. However, with this particular aspect, it is very important to do things the right way, to use our energy the right way. Intelligence, planning, foresight, strategy. The temptation is probably going to be there to just like take off without considering all of the angles with Mars in the sign of Libra, like without reaching a balanced judgment of things somehow. If you do it that way, you can crash and burn, you can just spin your wheels, you can burn yourself out and really not have anything to show for it. You can really like over promise, over commit, over like just bite off more than you can chew, basically, if we are too like reckless or impulsive or disorganized in the approach to the actions that we take. Success does not come through luck when we have a Jupiter-Mars square going on. However, it can very well come. This can be a quite successful energy expansion growth, can be an outcome with wise application of the way that we are utilizing our energy and our efforts, right? Foresight, thinking things through, especially with all that Virgo energy right now, and also the ways that we are changing our plans and our systems can have very productive and effective outcomes if we are taking the time to do things properly, okay? To figure out what's not working and truly solve the problems. If we are putting a proper plan in place, you're probably going to have the energy and momentum in your favor and get a positive outcome. So that is how we want to be using our energy while we move through this period of time. Now on Tuesday, let's talk about Tuesday for a minute. Mercury, planet number 2, leaves Leo, enters Virgo. This is like the gunshot that starts the race, because now Mercury is about to literally start to race through his sign of Virgo. Mercury is the ruler of the sign of Virgo. He's exalted in the sign of Virgo. This is a very generally clear, level-headed, logical, rational, streamlined, practical, mental energy. And it should, over this next couple of weeks, help us to organize our thoughts and organize our plans and be able to be more strategic and coherent and logical and linear and practical in the planning of whatever it is that we want to execute on. In regards, I do want to say also, like, if you're feeling the impact of this Mars-Jupiter square and you feel like there is like something that you are just like you need to get started, kind of like gung-ho about moving forward with, or like a burst of energy that is like motivating you to like take action to like do something, I will say, like, you may want to pump the brakes a little bit until we move through maybe the first few days of the week and head more towards the weekend. But then we do have the eclipse that's coming in this weekend. But there could just be like some additional information or another idea or some like facts or data or insight or conversation or just something that you learn or something in the early part of the week unexpectedly that perhaps like alters your idea about whatever it is that you're wanting to initiate on. Like there could just be a shift or change of plans or something like there something that maybe either enhances what it was that you wanted to get started or is like a missing like piece of information or something that facilitates your ability to do what you need to do, or maybe just like an unexpected plot twist, change to a plan or something that impacts that. So it may be just a good idea to hold on or hold off or just like maybe spend some extra time making your plan before you take that action, just because Mercury entering Virgo immediately is going to set up this square with Uranus. And of course, Uranus again, like is in the sign of Gemini, also ruled by Mercury. Shocking news, information, details, facts, sudden changes. So there could be some type of like informational or informative update or change or I don't know, just like unexpected this, that, or the other that comes through in the beginning part of the week that impacts whatever it was maybe that you want to get going or move forward on. So be mindful of that. Also, Mars in the sign of Libra, right? Squaring Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. This could be impacting the balance of things within the home and family somehow. There could be some like family conflict that is highlighted this week, having to do maybe with money or resources, assets, judgments, image, reputation, relationships, fairness, balance. There could be conflict over like what's mine and what's yours and what's fair and what isn't. So there's that. Also, I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. Take extra care of your health and general well-being this week, all month long. Pace yourself, get extra rest when you can. Be mindful if you find yourself in a place where maybe you're just like getting a little bit ahead of yourself, and try to really think things through before you just like jump off the cliff. Mars squaring Jupiter sometimes can entice us to take some big risks that maybe aren't all that well thought through. If they're very well thought through, they're probably going to pay off. If you just are doing it on impulse, that can be kind of a more accident prone energy. So take caution, take care with that. Ultimately though, I'm going to say it again, despite maybe the difficulty that this, or the test oriented nature maybe that this particular period of time may represent, at its core, I do see this as a time centered around spiritual growth and self-mastery. The position of the North Node, the destiny point for our eclipse season this time around, is at 19 degrees of Pisces, a master instructing his disciple. We also have Saturn retrograded back to the very last degree of the zodiac. Again, the obligation to end something once and for all. That Sabian symbol is a majestic rock formation, is idealized by a boy who takes it as his ideal of greatness, and as he grows begins to look like it. So maturing into perhaps a deeply internally known yet not arrived at personification of our own greatness somehow, learning the lessons that would help us evolve into a greater state of self-mastery, karmic release, karmic ending, the duty, the obligation, the responsibility to let go of an old version because of the endless potential that is possible if we are able to make these shifts and changes right now and really, again, like redefine our lives moving forward through the rest of this year and into next year. So a time of big changes likely to be underway right now. Again, could be some heavy stuff going on out there, could really feel like a lot is breaking down, but it's not purposeless. Jupiter trining the North Node. Everything is actually super purposeful right now, and there are a lot of blessings that are taking place, even though it's likely to feel just like the ending of things and not like some blessed new beginning. That is the, I think, flip side of what we've got happening right now, and it is going to become obvious to us, but not until probably we have moved a bit further into the future. So that's what I have to say today, you guys, about our astrology, about how things are coming together to get our week and our month started. Now, we got a real, just brief, to the point tarot message going on today. The only card that came out in my shuffle was the King of Cups in reverse. On the back of the deck, we have the Page of Swords in reverse, and the Ace of Wands underneath that. I feel like this is indicating, well, on one hand, okay, these two cards, I think that a lot of people may be struggling to figure out how to channel their energy, their creativity, like how to get the impulse or the desire or the passion out in a way that makes sense and actually can be like useful or productive or efficient somehow. Like that could be kind of a internal struggle that is going on as we get the week started. And then when we have the King of Cups as the card that did come out in reverse, to me that is indicating a lack of emotional control. Again, things kind of just spilling out. Like even people that generally conduct themselves with a level of like authority that they project outwards, maybe seeming like a little bit lost, a little bit delusional. This could also be like abuses of power or like emotional manipulation. Again, it's just giving very strongly to me Saturn retrograding back into the sign of Pisces. Like this is not an honest, truthful, straightforward energy. Like this is kind of like anything goes, like by any means necessary. Like people saying whatever they need to say to maintain some semblance of a fleeting control or authority that is just like running through their fingers like water or sand, but they're trying to grasp at it nonetheless, and will like, again, like use underhanded methods or whatever, scheming, whatever, in order to try to maintain that internalized perception of like still being in that place of authority. That could be how this is manifesting. People could also just be really, really struggling with a sense of emotional control, emotional regulation. This could also be manifesting as a big lack of like emotional maturity. Like people could, again, be acting very juvenile, very immature, very like much in ways that you like wouldn't expect from someone like in that place of prominence or of that age or in that position of authority. Breakdown of authority, leadership behaving badly, lack of compassion, lack of empathy, emotional manipulation, emotional dysregulation. Again, like maybe people being a bit like over the top in their efforts to control things that they like literally are refusing to accept that they no longer have control over. Delusional, delusions in regards to their sense of power or control or authority right now. So same themes that I feel like could be coming up as we have Saturn yet again re-entering the sign of Pisces. But this is a breakdown. This is a dismantling. That may be what is required in order for a transition of power to take place, in order for some type of shifting power dynamic or transition authority of leadership to take place. This could also represent like the literal, again, like release or the downfall or the stepping down or the retirement maybe of people that have been in positions of authority for a long period of time. But there's an emotional dimension of things, people not being responsible for their own emotions, people not taking accountability for things, also like projecting and like putting the blame on other people. But that goes back to just this like immaturity that could be present in the emotional field as well. So I don't know, that could definitely be a feature of both our our energy field via the astrology, and in terms of maybe your dealings with, I mean, and this is a king, so this most likely pertains again to like people in positions of authority somehow and their current emotional state, which Saturn's the same thing, people in positions of authority and their current emotional state. Retrograding at the very last degree of zodiac in the sign of Pisces. That again, something coming to an end, like by the will of a higher power. All right, so that's what I have to say about that. We are going to get one more card now. I'm going to get a synchronicity card. Ask God, Spirit, Universe for one more final piece of guidance or advice. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? What is our message of the day and the week? And as we get our month started, what should we tell ourselves? What is our reminder? What should our mantra be? There's our card. Oh, we got the no card, which is also sometimes the on card. So that may be applicable to your situation out there somehow, but I'm gonna keep shuffling so that we can get a message card. And there it is. Ask and ye shall receive. So this is our advice for the beginning of our week. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Now, I immediately, when I read that, think of Jupiter, blessings, the great benefic in the trine to the north node, this process of spiritual growth, expanding our faith, blessings through spiritual connection, like answered prayers. That is what this message is saying, and we do have that energy coming exact this week. This is the truth. All good is unfolding for you right now, and it will become a visible manifestation in your life very soon. So again, like, despite, I think I had it, I know I had it written down in my notes also. Regardless of what seems to be going on out there as we get this week started, our faith is really everything right now with that Jupiter North Node trine. This is where our growth and our blessings come from, is our ability to almost like merge with a higher power, merge with the divine. This is the truth. All good is unfolding for you right now, and it will become a visible manifestation in your life very soon, even if right now it might seem like we're navigating things that are a bit of a struggle. The more that we can, and again, it's like this mental shift, it's this mindset, that is what is going to change the whole nature of the game. The more that we can program our mind in this regard to cycle around this particular thought pattern and not maybe some of the more negative thought patterns that we usually have running in our subconscious, the more we are going to start seeing and perceiving and experiencing the blessings in our life, and also the positive trajectory that universe is orienting us towards right now. So that's what I have to say, you guys. Ask and ye shall receive. The power of prayer is really prominent right now, so use it. Cultivate and develop your relationship with a higher power, and that's what I have to say today. Message from the stars, message from the cards. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Definitely leave me comments. Also, let me know what's going on with you out there. I love to hear from you guys and to know how this energy is affecting you, especially if it is reflecting what I'm talking about in these videos. Drop me a comment. Let me know. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you so much. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards. It is linked in my description box below. Click the description. You'll see the link. Click the link, go there. There's that's where I post the pictures of the board. And come back with me on Wednesday, you guys. We got more astrology to be getting into. Mercury will have entered Virgo by Wednesday, and we will be talking about a Mercury-Uranus square. I will say, to end this report off, Tuesday and Wednesday, as Mercury enters Virgo and comes to that square, like, it could be like things could be a bit chaotic, a bit all over the place. I would not anticipate things going according to plan or schedule. So there's that, and I will catch you guys on Wednesday. Have a beautiful introduction to your week, and until next time, bye guys.